Fear the Walking Dead Season 2, Episode 3, Ouroboros. Now, this is actually a pretty interesting episode because it finally got me to watch the flight, I believe it was 497 or 476, little mini thing that they had done, which is actually very short. I thought it was much longer because it had been happening for such a long time. It's been going, I think it was 16 or 17 parts, so it was like 17 weeks of this thing. But altogether, it was like a minute. It was like a minute per piece, so it ultimately came out to almost. It was like 17 minutes and like 49 seconds. I thought it was gonna be like a full half hour. I'm like, crap! I'm watching this super late, and I'm gonna be watching like a half hour little thing, and then watching an hour of the episode, which was super late. It was super late at night, so that I thought that would affect me. And then I was like, oh, this is like 17 minutes long. It was so short, but it had been going on for such a long freaking time. It was crazy to me, but it was pretty cool. You know, I finally watched that. I had planned on doing a review of that by itself, but I just never got around to even watching it. But I had to for this episode because the woman that shows up in the beginning of this, as well as the young boy that she's with, they are they're like two of the main characters from the Flight mini series. I don't even know what you'd really call it. Just the mini piece, I guess. And the video itself I thought was pretty cool. You know, it's very simple. Now, you know, kind of talk about that since I never really did an official review on it. But that in itself I thought was very cool. It was just a unique way of doing it. I really liked her character the most because she was very interesting because she knew everything that was going on. And this was right around the time of the lights, you know, shutting off and stuff like that when the flight takes off. Or really when they're about to land, that's when when the lights take off so they can't actually land the plane. So I was like, alright, this is pretty cool because she knows about people being sick, and it's like, how long has this guy been sick? And are you sure he's sick and he's not dying and stuff like that? So I thought that was really cool because I was like, that says a lot. Like, how involved has she been in this stuff? Because even in the first season of Fear the Walking Dead, there have been a lot of stories where it's like, you know, things have been really weird and stuff like that. And it's just in, you know, different areas at different times. It's just like, it just happens all of a sudden. So I thought it was really cool that she seemed like she knew what she was doing, and it was so early on. Like, she already knew, like, oh, he's sick, he's definitely turning. Like, she had already killed a zombie at some point. So I thought that was really cool, like, just the way they had her character. You don't get, like, any history on these characters or anything in 17 minutes, but you can tell who's capable and, you know, little things about what they're dealing with. And when they finally crash, that's when we get to the beginning of this episode. And it was very surprising, because the way they did it, it was, this woman was like the main character, but it's, you know, it also has this young boy. And throughout this entire episode, he was just messed up. Like, the plane crash destroyed him, and he's like burnt on half his face and stuff. And so he's really messed up, and she's trying to protect him. And, you know, she kills the one guy that was trying to hit him with the oar, so she stabs him and he's dead. I don't know what happened with the other dude, because that's the guy who was in the boat that had his like arm like stuck in the vent of the boat or whatever. That was the other guy that was on the boat with them. So I guess he tried to make a move for the kid as well, because he's like, oh, he might turn, because he mentioned that, and that was the last time we saw them until we saw the zombie version of that guy, because he's like, you know, you have to take care of him before he turns, because if you don't, I will. But he doesn't finish because she looks at him and she seems more capable than he is. And apparently she was, because he ended up dead and he was underwater as a zombie. So I'm assuming that's what happened. He tried to make a move and kill the kid because he freaked out like the first guy did. And then she got rid of him as well and, you know, dumped him off the, you know, the little inflatable raft. But I like that. I thought it was cool. I was like, alright, so they're actually making them main characters. At least the woman, because it seemed like they were, I don't know what they were doing with the kid because he'd been all messed up, so he didn't really have too many lines in this episode. He was just wounded the whole time. But it seemed like they were at least making her a main character, or like they would kind of bring her into the fold. And, you know, we go through the episode, and so we have the crazy stuff with the boat getting messed up because the zombie arm is trapped in there. And Travis has to do some really gross stuff, especially at the end of the, particularly the end of the episode is really gross. He just digs his hand in and it's just sludge and stuff, and it's like, oh, there's a hand. So that was insanely gross. I don't know what the heck they put in there. It just looks super nasty. It was like, man, that's so gross. But they had to get out of there. So, you know, he just digs his arm in and just plops that hand out, and, you know, he fixes the problem. But, you know, we have that issue going on. We have Strand, and his confrontational attitude and how everything seems to just be going real south for his characters. Like, he played his hand, as always, he kind of plays his hand where it's like, I did this one thing, or, these two things, and I really helped you guys. And then it's like, me keeping secrets doesn't mean anything. That's kind of the way he acts, but it's like, if we're all traveling to one destination to literally survive because the world is like gone to crap, that's a big deal when you keep something like that a secret. It's like, yeah, you saved our lives, but now it's like you're kind of just trying to leave us for dead. And Madison is like, where are we going? Why are we going there? And at one point she's like, let me help you. We're going with you. Like, we're staying together, and that's all there is to it. And the fact that she had to say that kind of shows like he is still in this really weird state of mind. He's clearly going towards someone, which we still don't know who that person is just yet, but he's trying to get to them. He has land, and the way he's speaking to them, where it's like, they can't stay in a certain place, is like he's picking them up at one point and then they're going to Baja. So I don't know how it's really going to play out. Based on the promo, it's not going to be too good for Strand in this next episode. He's going to have a lot of confrontation, but he kind of keeps bringing it on himself, and he does not help whatsoever at the end of this episode, because everything, it's pretty crappy. It's like, look, they go on the island, they find these two people. It's like, hey, it's just two extra people. We can give them some items and stuff like that, keep them off the boat technically, and just tow them, and that's it. And that's at least what we can do. And it's like, alright, that's how it's going. And he comes down with that cleaver and he just snaps that rope and is like, I'm done. Like, boom, that's done. I'm walking upstairs. It's over. And I was like, wow, like that's a true way to be a dick. Like, just let some people go loose. Like, why even bother? Just saving anyone, honestly. It's like, why bother doing any of that crap when, it's two extra people? Like, I could understand the big boat where it was like a dozen people on that raft. But there's like literally two extra people, and he just like lost his mind on it. I was like, okay. He stopped arguing, and I thought he let it go. And then he comes back and is like, nope, what I say goes, that's it. And, my boat, my rules. But it was just crazy the way it ended, and it's just like, alright, bye, you're floating off to wherever now. So I don't know if we're gonna get to see that woman come back and the young guy. But I like that. I like their characters. I thought they were, fine, in the small piece. But I don't know. Like, it's hard to tell. It's like, is that how they're going to end their story, where they just vanish? Because now it's just the main characters again. So it's like, are they just never going to show up? Or what's going to happen to them? But it was pretty crazy. It was a crazy ending. And then we have the stuff on the island I thought was really good. I mean, we had two crazy ones. We have one guy who almost dies because he falls into a pit, which was a pretty interesting scene where the zombie was trapped like halfway and the crabs were crawling around him. And then we have, really the youngest character in the group. He has to kill someone. He has to kill this guy who's completely wounded. Like, he's paralyzed from the waist down, which I figured, I was like, okay, he's definitely dying. Like, he's going to be dead soon. And then when he pulls him out of the chair and he's laying down, and like his spine is just sticking straight out his back, which looked insanely gross to me. I was just like, wow, he's definitely dead. Because he's got a giant hole in his back. So even though they didn't have it where he was actually bleeding in that moment, that, really should have just killed him right there. But he's paralyzed. He can't go anywhere. He's got no food, no nothing. And so he has to just beat this guy's head in. And he doesn't do it right. Like, the first 2 times he hits him, the guy's still alive. And I was like, wow, that has to make it a million times worse because he didn't do it right. And I was thinking, like, he should have looked for something sharp, because I wouldn't have done it with that metal, the piece of the plank. Because I'm like, as hard as I could swing, I would instantly assume that I wouldn't kill someone in one hit with that. Like, maybe, you hit a zombie who is like mush for flesh. Yeah, you could basically knock half their head off with, anything solid. But an actual human with a thick skull and everything, like actual, bones, I was just like, that's not going to work. And it definitely didn't. It made it worse. So, had some crazy stuff happen on the island for sure. I would love to know if the characters from the the little mini episode are going to come back and they'll survive on the raft or whatever. But who knows? It's really hard to tell. This is definitely a good episode, though. I think despite the emotional aspects and the confrontation, this is actually a big action episode because there was a lot of suspense, especially the island sequence. Like what the heck's gonna happen there? Um, who will live, who will die? I assumed everyone was gonna make it, but it was just pretty crazy for a minute, and then just the way it ended with just the dramatic tension of he just chops that rope and lets them float off and doesn't say a word. It's just like, this is done. I don't care who else it is or what else you guys think is going to happen here. It's what I say. And it's just us. Like, there's not going to be a single extra person no matter what. And he makes that clear. And he's going to... I mean, he's already kind of making enemies, to begin with, because he's not the greatest person ever. So we'll see how that plays out. That seems to be a big point of the next episode. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. But I definitely want to know what you guys thought about this one. So please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts, your least favorite parts, and whether you guys have seen. Well, I guess it makes it more important if you have seen the little mini episode for the characters on the plane. But I definitely want to know if you guys think they'll bring them back, if they'll survive in some way. Maybe they'll come back later in the season, or somehow survive and they'll show up again in the very next season or something. I feel like they wouldn't waste that opportunity because even though it's only 17 minutes, we got to know who these characters were, at least in some regard. And then, what's the point of having that cool special online thing, and then bringing them into the series, and then getting rid of them at the end, and it's like, that's it, like, that's the end of their story. It almost makes it pointless to have it to begin with, because it's just like, here's them at the beginning of their crazy journey. They crash in a plane, which, how could that not be interesting to figure out, what happened afterwards? And then it's just like, oh, they made it, but then they got let loose on the water and that's it. So I hope that's not what they do. Maybe they won't come back anytime soon, but I hope they don't just get rid of these characters. But I do want to know if you think they'll come back, if you want them to come back or not. If you haven't seen the mini episode, I highly recommend checking it out. It's, like I said, 18 minutes, not even that. But I thought it was pretty cool for what it was, and it does, when it focuses really on two main characters more than anyone else, it kind of gets you invested. That's all you need. It's like a zombie thing, and they've built this universe, so I want to know where they go. And I hope they bring them back. It's hard for me to tell based on the way they ended it. Like, oh, that's their journey, and it ends right there. So I hope they come back, but I definitely want to know if you guys think they'll come back, or if you even want them to come back. And, of course, what you guys thought about this episode in general. So please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.